Hello, welcome to Supermodel Hero. My name's Jordan, and today I'm going to be giving you 5 tips on how you can be the best model of yourself possible when working from home with one of these. Yes, it's a plastic baby, but this is not the sort of baby I mean. I mean a real live human one. And my one is sleeping at the moment, and that's why I can do this video. She is 18 months old today, actually, and my son is 8 nearly. And my business is nearly 7. I set up the business when my son was just 1, and I've been asked on a number of occasions how I managed to work from home without hiring a nanny, without much help from family or friends, and successfully do it with children. And so I decided to do these tips because I was asked again recently by a lady who wants to go back to her previous position as a medical editor. And she's a bit concerned because her baby is nearly 1 and her job requires a lot of thoroughness, attention to detail, and concentration. So hopefully these tips will come in handy for you if you're thinking of going back to work for yourself from home. Okay, so tip number 1 is to ensure that you don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't run before you can walk, or any other analogy that you can think of that would suit this tip. Only take on the work that you can do to the highest standard possible. So you want to be able to give your previous clients or new clients the best work that you can give because you want longevity with working with them. So if you get all excited and say, yeah, I can take on 20 hours, and then you realise, actually, I can only do 2 hours a week because this is pretty hard, then it's unprofessional to kind of go back on yourself. So what you want to do is think, okay, I'm going to take on, say, I don't know, 5 hours a week to start with, see how that goes for a couple of months, and then increase the time. And I'm sure the clients would prefer that, just the honesty of this is how much time I've got to dedicate, and then we can increase that to see how it goes. If you've worked with them before, I'm sure they'll be fine about that, but it's better that you do that than to do it the other way around and end up getting pressured or stressed, or other areas of your life falling down just because you're trying to fulfill this commitment. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to look at your schedule. Now, for me, I have got a household of 4 people, including myself. We all have different needs. As I said, my baby daughter, my nearly 8-year-old son, my pushing 40 husband, and myself. So all different needs, which means that we really have to be mindful of our schedule. Your schedule might be slightly different. I try to do as much of my work as possible, like my concentrated work as possible, when my children are asleep. I've been working for myself for many years, and even before I had children, I was in employment for a bit, but then I was working for myself in a different industry. And so my schedule has changed over the years, and I'm quite good, I guess, at seeing where my most productive times of day are. But that's another thing you need to look at when you're doing your schedule, is when you wake up in the morning, actually a really good, couple of hours, you can do a lot of work. It's when we're most alert. Some people are morning people, so you could, if your children sleep in or haven't have another sleep in the morning, do as much work then as possible and be really productive. But it's all about you looking at your schedule as a family, your setup. It might be a case of when you start out that you are doing a lot of your work in the evening when the children are asleep. And if this is the case, which it can be the case, it was the case for me when I started my business 7 years ago, because I had a lot more to do, and I felt like I had a lot more to prove as well, to the clients, I can do this, etc. Just make sure that you allocate enough time, enough partner time. So you'll obviously have time with the children for different, even coming back and forth from school, or looking after the baby during the day at different points. Just ensure that you also nurture your relationship with your partner. So even if it's just one evening a week that you dedicate during this busy period of your life to each other, and spend that time with each other, because it makes a huge difference to your relationship. And obviously you need to stay a really strong unit while you're working and looking after children. Okay, so looking at the hours that you take on, looking at your schedule. And tip number 3 kind of goes hand in hand with both, is to look at the small shifts that you can make in your life to facilitate that bigger change of going back to work or taking on a client. And those shifts are the tiniest little things. But for example, something that makes such a huge difference in my life is that my husband will do most of the cooking when he comes home, because he enjoys cooking. He'll switch off, do the cooking perfectly, luckily for me, and then I'll do like everything else that needs to be done at that time. But he will make an extra amount of food, so there'll be enough for us either the next day, or there'll be enough for my son when he comes home from school the next day. Those times are really crucial for me because I'm really busy when my son comes home from school. I want to spend time with him. Obviously, I need to see how his day has gone. I need to do homework with him. I need to do my daughter's food and bath time. So I have a couple of hours off in my personal schedule for my work in that time for my children. So being able to go to the fridge and know that there's food there is brilliant. In fact, one of my friends, when I was living in Australia, she has a daughter, same age as my son, and her interior design business just got really, popular, and she was doing really well. She still is, actually. And she decided to make meals every Sunday for the week ahead and refrigerate them or freeze them, because she didn't want to compromise the good food that they ate. So that's another way to do it as well, just cooking in advance, because that makes a huge difference. Believe you me, the fact that you're eating, the fact that your children are eating, and that you're eating good food, because it's very easy to just grab, that instant gratification of, chocolate or biscuits. I've done it. Cup of tea and like 10 or 15 biscuits instead of lunch, it's not a good idea. So having that food there is really cool. So that's an idea of a small shift. Another idea of a small shift, which works for me as well, is if you shower normally in the morning but you feel like that's taking too much of your time because you have too much to do, then have your shower last thing at night. Then when you get up in the morning, you can put your clothes on and just be ready for your day. So that's another thing that sometimes works for me. If I've got a really busy week, then I'll try and have my shower right last thing before I go to sleep, which is actually a really nice way to calm yourself down after a long day, have a think of things that you need to do for the next day, and then just wind down, go to bed, go to sleep, have a good night's sleep, and just get up the next day and get on. Okay, so tip number 4 is to ensure that you dedicate a space in your home, if you can, for your work. Now, I've worked for myself, as I said, for a number of years, and I've lived in different houses. I've done big moves from one part of the UK to the next, from the UK to Australia and back again. And there's been times I've been working, lying on the floor on my belly with my laptop to hit deadlines for a client, because I have no furniture, because my furniture is still in shipment and waiting to be delivered to me. That was a glorious day when that came, by the way, but that's another story for another day. So the point is, I have worked in different areas of my home for different reasons. However, I do see the benefit of being able to have a desk in one place in your house or home, wherever you live, just finding a small corner, even if you've got a small setup, where you can switch off if you need to. If you can close the door of that room and not have to use that room in the evening sometimes, even better, because you don't want your work to always creep into your home life. And there is a danger of that when you work for yourself from home, especially when you have children, because there is kind of that notion of, oh, I'll get it done at some point. I can't do it right now. I've got something else to do. And then you're always constantly doing work everywhere in the house. And it's good to have a focus and an area where you can just get on with the harder tasks. And then also other people in the household can see that you're working as well, which is good. Okay, tip number 5. And obviously, when I'm giving you these tips, these are for you to cater for yourself and your situation, just like whatever advice I give you, because we're all different. But this one I find really very important, because it's value in yourself. Now, I know lots of mums who have gone back to work. It's a growing area of work, actually, because over the last decade especially, I've noticed that more and more women are going back to work, but are working for themselves from home, whether they're bloggers or vloggers, however you say that, or whether they're doing editing, or whether they're graphic design. You know, I know people who work in all fields that work from home. But what I've noticed is that when women are going back into any industry they've worked in, especially if they've had a little gap in their CV, they feel like they really have to prove their worth. They feel that they're not good enough. And so this tip is to value yourself. Okay, so if you're adhering to the other 4 tips, especially number 1, where you're not taking on more than you can handle, you're doing the work that you can do, then value yourself. Charge the same amount as what you would whether you had a baby or not. That makes no difference. In fact, you're probably more of a wonderful woman for having a child, because it's a massive journey and life experience. So this tip's very important. Value yourself within your industry, within your ability, just as you would have done before having a child, and make sure that you feel comfortable enough to send out invoices, and then just be grateful when you get the payment. And honestly, that work will keep coming if you just do it in stages, just as you do everything else when you're a parent. You know, do it in stages, little baby steps, as they say, and you shall be fine. And I'm very, very proud of you, even though we've not met. And she's very proud of you, even though she's not real. But good luck with it. And I hope these tips have been helpful. Much love.